Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Again, my name is Rogelio Perez. I am based out of San Antonio, Texas. I own a personal training gym called Endure Athletics, and I'm a Christian, I'm a husband, somewhat of an athlete. You know, I enjoy to train, and then I'm currently prepping for a half Ironman. But I've done plenty of other sports: weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding training, CrossFit. Right now, just my challenge is half Ironman race. If you guys kind of look at my previous videos, we're recording the process of all that. But basically, long story short, the friend that I had helping me out with those videos, we chose to go a different route. He's helping me out a lot more with just the business side of things when it comes to content wise. And I felt the need to still create YouTube videos, but I didn't feel the necessity to do them as vlogs. I felt the necessity to honestly just talk to you guys on here and share with you guys what's going on in my life, as a husband, as a business owner, as a Christian, and I mean as an athlete as well, especially in this triathlon on prep. I feel like I am learning a lot of things, and I want to share that with you guys. I think, you know, sharpening each other, or me helping sharpen people through fitness, is one thing, but something that I've noticed is that fitness can sometimes be very superficial. It doesn't work out all our problems for us, and majority of us, sometimes when we step into the gym, we seek the gym to help us get through certain problems, right? Whether it's like a heartbreak, or maybe we're feeling depressed because we lost our job somewhere, or we don't like our job, so we just go and release out all that negativity at the gym, whatever that is. But then it gets deeper, right? Then it becomes to like, okay, well, what happened to why your girlfriend broke up with you, right? Like, what are those deeper issues that we need to work in life out? And for me, guys, 2 years ago is when I started my walk with Christ, and there was a lot of learning involved, to be honest. I mean, I knew God when I was little, but I didn't seek it myself. It was more, I was forced to go and attend, like, you know, majority of Catholics, I think, kind of are, especially as kids. It's more something they just drop you off at. They don't just, they don't ask you that's something that you want to do, right? But as I got older, I realized I did want to eventually get married, have a family, and I feel like marriage is something that's given to us by God, and I felt like I needed to see God more in my life, and then live by the rules He has gave us, right? If that's what I wanted in my life. So yeah, we're 2 years in now, and it's this thing of like, I don't want to be somebody you talk to and you're just like always gonna be a holy pusher on me, because you hear that often. But I do need to share with you guys the good that has happened in my life because of this, my testimony. And sometimes these testimonies, you know, can help others, and if it helps you, great. I love that. That's why I want to share it, because it maybe can help one of you. But if it doesn't, completely understand, and maybe if you don't want to hear about this, you can skip through it to the next part where I'll talk about maybe more business and training stuff right now. However, yeah, so me and my wife Sierra, we've been together for like 8 years, but we're just boyfriend and girlfriend, right? And then eventually, as I started my business and we started growing, I started seeing like, okay, now I see myself marrying her, right? Well, then we got engaged, broke up, went through some problems, and we were just simply doing our own thing, and then we ended up back at church separately, and then eventually started dating a little bit again, moved in together, and then got married. So when we started dating again, right, we both were seeking God separately. So then as we started we started dating again, we were like, okay, it made sense because it was two people trying to seek God. So we were like, why don't we just seek Him together? Which then we moved in. But then as the more I got into church and Christ, I understood that, you know what, like, we're basically already living like as if we were married. Had a house together. We were living together under the same roof, paying bills together, sex, right? Pretty much everything a married couple does without being married. So eventually we decided, you know what, let's do this. I will tell you guys right now, as men, sorry if you guys see me look at my phone, it's just because I'm going through some notes that I took. If the biggest struggle for men is commitment, especially commitment to one spouse. I would say honestly that's one of the biggest struggles out here, because that's not what the world teaches us. Not to go super big into this topic, but I do feel the need to share this. Something I would notice, right, was that Sierra would watch the show Jersey Shore, right? I've seen Jersey Shore myself, especially when I was younger, right? The first ones that came out. And I started thinking to myself that same show that sometimes she watches because it's funny or whatever, I watched it as when I was 14, 15, as the show of like, oh, that's what a guy is supposed to be like. Because these guys, look, they get all the women, and from the looks of it, it's okay to be sleeping around with different women. And it looked normal. It's being glamorized because it's on TV. So that's what you like just kind of looked up to. And that's just one example, right? There's many others. But yeah, so it's not what the world teaches you. But when I realized I did eventually want to have a family and have kids, I understood that, like, okay, this is probably going to go deeper than just me getting married, right? There's more to it. And yeah, as I started going to church and reading the Bible, I started to find a lot more of that out. And sure, some of it were struggles, right? But I feel like, or not, sorry, I don't feel like, as I started working on this and building a better relationship with God, and as a Christian, I noticed that my life was more at peace. You see, 2 years ago, even outside of what happened with my wife, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. Part of me wasn't taking care of my body the best. I was drinking a lot of energy drinks a day, working out, barely even sleeping. I was stuck in this big hustle culture mentality where that's why I'm not doing okay, right? Like, I was living with my parents. I had just graduated college, and I just felt like I need to prove to myself that I can do something with myself now, right? Now that I've graduated. I was going into law enforcement, and then that didn't even work out. They lost my application when it came to the last thing after a whole year of doing all my steps with them. And they were just like, oh, well, you can restart the process. Luckily, I had already started personal training then. And when that happened, I remember just telling myself that my overall goal was to one day have a business. And when I was applying to law enforcement, I was already personal training. And I was like, well, this is technically a business. Why don't I just run with this and see where it goes? And now here we are. This was back in 2021. We're in 2025. And this became not just a personal training business. It's not just me personal training is what I mean. I have other coaches that work there at the gym and that help us coach more clients. It's a small studio that we coach clients in private, in small groups, or one-on-one. But if I wouldn't have taken that risk then, I wouldn't be here where I am now. And I do think it all happens for a reason. But basically through that time, when even having the business, there became a moment where I just started getting very anxious. And I was sometimes sweating in my sleep. I would wake up, my heart rate would be like just high. And honestly, you kind of feel like you're maybe gonna die. If any of you guys have anxiety, maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. And it's a feeling I don't wish on anyone. So for me, after that, I just did start to think like, man, I'm doing something wrong here. And then all of that was going on. That's when actually the breakup happened between me and Sierra. And a friend invited me to church. And so when I started going to church and seeking God, that's when I started to notice a little more peace in my life. And I started to take life a little slower, allowing myself to rest when I could, not being so hard on like how I need to work out 5-6 times out of the week, or if I miss one workout, like all of a sudden like I suck. I stopped being that way towards myself. And so since then, my life has become more at peace. My relationship's growing. The business is growing. And I've still had my fair share of struggles. I'm not going to lie like I don't. But even through the struggles, I'm having more peace through it. And once you start to see God in your life, I feel like the one thing you notice is that it's a constant work at it daily. You're never going to be perfect. All you can do is do your best daily to seek Him and what He's teaching you in a way to live, in a way to love others. And really outside of that, do your best not to fall short, right? You will fall short one way or another. The only perfect person that was ever on this earth was Jesus. But yeah, that's why I'm sharing this with you guys, because the peace that has come into my life has been greater than any other. I think a lot of us could use more peace in our lives and purpose. And you only really find even your purpose the more you seek God. Because for me, if you read your Bible, it talks about how our purpose is to spread the word, right? Help others understand who Jesus was, who Christ was. Love people like Christ loved His disciples and the people that He would help. And that's the overall goal. So when I say that fitness isn't helpful, I don't mean it as like it can't help people. It does. Obesity is a real thing that people die from. And, in general, like, if you want to get in better shape, you want to improve your looks, that's all real stuff. But for me, now, walking as a Christian, I feel like that is my way, and that was my gift given to me to be able to help others in. But then it goes into this deeper way of like eventually having these conversations with them, which is it happens a lot more now naturally. It's not even something that I'm trying to force. So that's why you'll see me sharing this stuff with you guys on here. So just know that in these conversations that I have, that's kind of like my goal. That's what you should expect. Some reflections based on faith, my life, as a husband, as a business owner, and overall my training. That's what I can tell you guys. Two of the biggest things that I've been taking away, especially this week, from reading. I'm currently reading Matthew right now. Matthew 19, actually, is how it talks about on here about divorce, right? And the way I want to touch on this, if you guys go and read this, it talks about on here. So you become one with your wife, right? Once you guys get married, you leave your parents, and you guys become one. And what God has joined together, no one can separate. In a big way, I want to explain this to you guys is that that's what marriage is, right? And once you're one, you need to really consider your actions more, because even though there are actions on you about you, it does affect your spouse. Or when you sin, your sin affects you, but it also affects your wife. So you need to be very careful in that, because marriage is permanent until death does us part, right? We need to correct the root of our problems, because people end up divorcing now, right? We shouldn't, right? But on this earth, we divorce, people divorce, and then they eventually seek another relationship. But then they eventually end up probably having the same problems. And the thing is that unless you never fix that root of those problems, you're always going to have the same conflicts in future relationships. And then this made me actually think about something else I've noticed in life, right? Is that, again, we can go back and look at my situation, but it's almost like the way we're taught to now is to do a test drive, right? Like, let's see first if you like this person, right? Date them. Let's see first, what you like about the person, what you don't like. Do you like their looks? Do you like their personality? Yes, right? And then it's like, okay, yes, sex, right? Do you like that from them? It's like, oh, yes, right? Or no. And then it's like, okay, out. You move in with the person. It's like, you want to see now if you actually, you are both, y'all can both work together, living together, right? Like, y'all can do stuff around the house together, helping each other. How is it living with this person? Yes or no, right? And it's like you're just wanting to check off things off the list to see if you're capable of doing that with this person. Then like, oh, now let's combine the finances. And then you keep it going like that, right? But then you never get to the main thing, which is supposed to be marrying the person. Because we do not want to fully commit in that way. And the problem with me now, the way I look at it now, is that we expect too much of each other. Like, you think that you're going to find this perfect individual when you yourself are not even that perfect. And that's the biggest problem. Like, you're not going to find anybody perfect. You're not perfect yourself. Instead of continuing to trying to see the red flags in people, you should be trying to do your best and just both people agree to do their best to work together. And in the midst of the troubles and the problems that you guys will have together, you choose to get better at it. When me and Sierra got married, and even when we moved in together, things were not perfect. We were still learning a lot about each other. and we still chose to get married, and we had still had problems from our past. But even like now, right, as we decided to get married, it's like we are agreeing to bring God into our lives together. We built this covenant with each other, a relationship binded with us and with God, and there's no going anywhere. She's not going anywhere, I'm not going anywhere. We're gonna work this out through thick and thin. And some people do not want to be willing to go through that. And then they started trying to tie like, oh, it's because I don't have the money to get married. And it's like, bro, you don't need the money. Like, you go downtown, pay the fee, and boom, there you go. So, yeah, I read this, right? And it made me more than anything just reflect on the past and more on how us men have looked at marriage. And I know that's not what all this chapter talks about, but it made me think about that as to reasons as to why people see divorce as still a thing, but then as to why even people don't want to even get married in the first place, because they're scared of that big commitment, right? So yeah, again, I'm still learning a lot of this myself, but that's something I took away from this. And then even in Matthew 19, this is what I want to share with you guys a little bit, where I'm at with the business. Is Jesus, there's a parable in here about the rich and the kingdom of God, right? And this rich young man comes up to Jesus and he's telling him like, what do I do need to go to heaven? And he's like, well, follow the commandments. Like, you don't murder, you don't commit adultery, you don't steal, you don't give false testimony. Sorry, I'm looking at my Bible right now. Honor your father and mother, love your neighbor as yourself. And he's like, what if I already do all that? He's like, well then go sell everything, sell your possessions, give them to the poor, and you will have a treasure in heaven. And he leaves because the young man doesn't want to do that. So then Jesus says, truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again I tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. And towards the end it says, verse 26, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. So when I read this, I think a lot about how we value our possessions and materialism a lot nowadays. And where I am in the business is that the business has grown well these last 2 years. And it slowly has provided me more income, right? But the crazy thing about it is that if you would have told me then, when I was first starting this, that I would have been in this position one day that made me more money. Just to give you guys an example, if I started making in the business $3,000, right? And now the business is making over $100K. Like, the business, which it still may not still seem like a lot of money, but whatever that number may be, right? Where it's 50,000 to 200,000, whatever that would be, is that growth like that happens, and majority of us think that when that happens, like, ooh, more money for me, right? More money for me. But as a business grows, it demands more responsibilities, and it demands more help, especially if you want to do it the right way. So this isn't even about me anymore. This business is about, one, taking care of me and my wife, taking care of the people that we coach, taking care of the people that are working there at the facility, Rad, Gilbert, taking care of Matt that helps us with the content. It's about all of us. And then you start to realize that money doesn't just come back all to you, it's for everyone. So then you start to see that, like, for one, like all these materialism things that happen, sometimes it's attached to greed and just wanting more and more for ourselves, which sometimes can become unhealthy. And even for me sometimes, right, I would get caught up in this thing where like I wanted a bigger gym space, right, by the end of this year. And the more I thought about it now and prayed about it, it didn't make sense yet because we could still do a lot more with this small location that we have. And I started getting stressed about it. And I think that's when the problems start. That's where it's wrong. Where we start to have anxiety, stress over something, more than likely then it doesn't belong in our lives. If it's giving us a sense of entitlement or thinking that we're better than others, more than likely it doesn't even belong in our lives if that's the kind of feelings that it gives us. Now, if it's something that maybe it's helping you grow or build or help more people, love others better, and more than likely it does belong in your life. So I guess this is where you can think of like also, what do you consider rich, right? And I'm not trying to go, I'm not, right now that I'm talking about this, I'm not sharing you guys what this passage is now saying. I'm just sharing you guys some thoughts that I've been having because I want to eventually get to this. Is that I'm starting to see the financial gain of the business. And I can see how people can become very greedy when it starts to make more. Because yes, we are meant to take care of ourselves, right? But then there also comes a point where we can be greedy to the point that even being greedy will not help you continue to grow. And will not maybe even help you reach God's purpose for you. Because for the most part, maybe through your purpose, you are meant to help others rise and come up with you. Whether it's for a while, temporary, for the rest of life to work together. But that's where something I feel like I've seen in this world is that people there's people on here who have achieved a lot, especially nowadays with the internet. They received a lot of financial gain, materialism gain because of what they've been able to accomplish through the way they talk, what they do on social media, whatever, right? At a young age. And they use that, and it's almost like everything's really great in their lives. I'm not saying for everybody, right? But sometimes that's the picture that's portrayed. So then if you're rich like that, then you don't even want to see God in your life because you're like, I have everything I need. But really you don't. So now that I'm following God, right, and I'm seeing this financial gain, I can see how you can get caught up in that super easily. And it's something I don't want to get caught up in, you know? Like I want to make sure that what I'm doing is fulfilling and it's purposeful, and I'm helping others come up and grow and come with me. And this is where I don't want to have all these possessions. Like, I want to have a relationship with God first, because the peace I have received from that is greater than any financial gain I've ever had. And if God continues to bless me in my business, then more than likely it's because, yes, it's to provide for me and my family, but then it's also to help others along the way. And yeah, as I read this, I just want to be very careful because I did have a point where, like, for me, money was the thing that I was always stressing about. As one, wanting to save it, but then also as the person of like, oh, I just want to make more. Like, let's say the business made $10,000 one month, right? And the next month I was like, oh, now I need to make 12. And then, oh, the next month now I need to make 13. Oh, the next month I need to make 14. I was always trying to push that line. And if I didn't hit that, it was like, oh, I'm a failure or I suck. And that's not the way to live either. And then when it came to saving, right, I would save, and then if I don't have X amount of money saved by such date, oh, I'm a failure. And then you start to look down on yourself, and then you start to feel bad about yourself. And now that feeling affects you in other areas of your life. And before you know it, maybe you had a crappy workout, and now you're not even going to the gym because you're depressed. And that's where, the more I got into my word, I realized that if it's casting you anxieties, unneeded pressure, more than likely doesn't belong in your life. And you need to give that to God, surrender it to Him, and know that He's going to take care of you. You know, there's a amazing quote on here, and I want to say it's in Matthew 8. No, it's not in Matthew 8. But I'm just going to say it the best way I can. But there's a verse where Jesus is talking about how just as He feeds the birds and takes care of them, understand that He's also going to help you. Why wouldn't He take care of you if you're greater than the birds or any other animals of this world? And that alone should tell you, like, you're going to be alright. If you have faith, you trust in God, He's going to provide. So now, as I share all this with you guys, I want to make sure that I kind of let you guys know just a little life kind of update. But as I'm talking to you guys about all this, understand that I'm sharing this, but I'm not perfect. I'm seeking God myself to improve myself, and I'm sharing this again just because it's something I've seen that's really helping me, and I believe it can help you too. But now, and right now in life, with this triathlon prep going on, and the business growth that has been happening, I'm facing a struggle, but then I'm also facing it's like I have a blessing and a struggle, right? So the business has grown to the point where, like, I'm doing more of the management work and trying to be a leader and see how, as we grow the business, bring in more clientele. I'm still coaching, but Rod and Gilbert are coaching a bit more themselves, and I'm trying to prep for this triathlon because I have a little more time on my hands, right? But I'm also learning this new role that I have, and I'm trying hard to not feel like I'm neglecting my business because I'm training, and sometimes I can be trained like twice a day, for example, because that's what I need to do to prep for this race. Sometimes I need to run or bike on the same day, swim or bike, and sometimes I still need to do some strength training. So it is adding up, and I know it's not forever, but I feel the pressure of trying to do this race, but then the pressure of not being a great leader. And this is where I need to make sure I manage my time well to do my job and do my training. But I can definitely tell you that nobody teaches you any of this. I worked with mentors. I have a mentor. And if anything, it's conversations that I've had with her and other business people that I've gotten to see that that's exactly where you should be. Like, you're doing things the right way. It's just a part of having a business. You're always going to feel somewhere of a pressure of, like, I could do more. But you're doing things right. So yeah, but then it's almost like a blessing too, right? Because, like, now it's like I can train for this. I wanted to do the race like this years back, But then the more I would see how much sometimes those athletes would train, I would be like, damn, I don't know if I can train that much. It's a lot of training to be done. And now it's like I'm living in a position where I can. I just need to make sure I organize my time. And yeah, right now I am 1 week out for my sprint triathlon, and then my half Ironman will be in October. And it's cool. This triathlon is really teaching me a lot more about self-discipline, because it requires a lot of time commitment to it, but then I also need to be, again, disciplined enough to then rest and take my time to do the other things in my life I need to work on when I'm not training. The business growth has gone really well, and I think that's just my current struggle, if I'm being honest with y'all. Seeing my blessing, but then I'm also trying to understand that that has been given to me by God. It's also something He's entrusting me with. So I need to make sure I take care of it, that I take care of this business, that I guide it correctly. But then again, in this preparation for this Ironman, it's something that do believe, because I did pray for it and I prayed about it, that God's allowing me to do. But also, it's not everything. It's not my first thing. The first thing is my relationship with Him, the relationship with my wife, my business, and then friendships, and then it's the very end, honestly, this race. And it's funny because, yeah, years ago I would have looked at things completely the opposite way around. If I had a powerlifting competition or something going on, I would have been like, that's what comes first. Everything else, block it out. I don't need that right now. But now I'm like, no, I do need these other things. And I do need, especially first, my relationship with God. That's what's helping me through everything. And at the very end is this race. And whether I was able to do it or not, which I hope I can do it, something happened, God's telling me, nope, not the time, then it's not the time, and that doesn't define me. Because I do think we have gotten a lot of caught up, or even for me, through the years, where I would define myself a lot more through these physical competitions or PRs in the gym. Because that's who I was, right? I was the fitness guy. I was the person, fitness, right? And right now my business is in fitness. But when the moment you start identifying yourself too much as that, you forget that that's not what makes you who you are. And you need to be careful with that. Because that feeling of attachment to something can make you almost go a little crazy and depressed when that's taken away from you. Like if you have an injury or something and you don't have that anymore, it's like you don't know what to do with yourself, because the thing that was you is no longer you, or at least for a while. That's kind of all I have right here for you guys. Again, I just kind of feel God putting all of this on my heart, and I feel like this is the start of something deeper. It's talking about faith, discipline, things of like athletes, and just the life I'm building. And honestly, the many lessons and all that, and that can help honestly me self-reflect, but also others here. Because I did notice sometimes when I would talk in my stories, people would take stuff from that, and I was like, you know what, we need to keep this YouTube thing going, but we need to talk about it on there. So yeah, guys, I invite you guys on this journey. I hope you guys take something from this. Hope y'all see this as me just being very transparent, and that I'm not perfect. I'm learning as I go as well. This is what you should expect on the future videos. Some real conversations about life, business, training. If there's any conversations you would like for me to talk about, feel free to drop them down in the comments and I'll go all out on this. And I do want to do a little bit of a better job on planning on these videos, because I have a bunch of notes, but they're a little bit unorganized, and I want it to be better organized better. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure, the one thing I'll leave you with, if you start reading the Bible, or you start training, or you start a business, it's endure the process, and it's gonna pay off. Leave you guys with that. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.